I've started making some longer form content on YouTube, and I realised I haven't even actually gone over some basics for Dungeon Masters and Games Masters out there. So, let's make a video about it, shall we? So, first off, before we do, hi, I go by Solvar on the internet here. Welcome to my sanctuary, a place for weary travellers, adventurers, Dungeon Masters, Games Masters of all kind to be able to end up coming, collecting information, sharing their knowledge, and being able to learn more about TTRPGs, campaigns, all of that stuff, how to end up making things really cool, talking about story tropes, characters, just plot lines, locations, all of the stuff that you will need to end up becoming the best Games Master, Dungeon Master, whoever Master in just the possible scenarios of TTRPGs. If you end up liking this type of content, please end up giving this video a like. If you want to end up seeing more of this stuff, please end up subscribing to the channel. If you want, please share it with your friends if you think this is really cool and you want to end up talking about it more, because I really appreciate that. Please ring the notification bell if you want to keep up to date with everything, and this video is sponsored by no one. That's right. Okay, so actually let's get into the video now, shall we? So, starting with things off, you're a new Games Master of some sort in a campaign. So, where do you begin? Where do you start? Well, it does change depending on what type of campaign you're running. It depends entirely on what TTRPG system you are playing. But really, all of them are relatively similar. So, a couple of things which I would advise, first things first, to catch yourself up to speed with everything. Tip number 1, scour the internet for information. I'm not kidding. Seriously, depending on what type of TTRPG you are running, you might have the books, you might not. So they can be expensive and also a little bit obscure. If you're running things like Dungeons and Dragons, yes, of course, the internet is absolutely aflame with all of that information, but if you're running, say, I don't know, the Dragon Age TTRPG, yeah, that's a thing if you didn't know about it, yeah, information on that is going to be a bit more obscure. It's going to be a bit harder to find, so I highly recommend scouring the internet for any information that you might need. Find forums on Reddit, find YouTube videos of people talking about the information, find as much information on the subject matter as you can. If you can get your hands on the source book, do. If it's way too expensive, just try and find a PDF online. Honestly, probably the easiest thing to do, and especially if you are just starting out for the very first time and you have got a group of friends who have never played before, just use online resources. You don't invest ludicrous amounts of money until you think that this is something that you and your friends are going to be doing on a regular basis. Believe me, when you end up falling down the rabbit hole of spending money on TTRPGs, you can fall hard and my wallet is still crying. And I barely spend in comparison. I've got one friend who is in debt from the amount of dice they have been buying, so please take this as your official warning from me to you. Be careful with how much you spend when just getting started with the hobby. All joking aside, because, if you don't like it and you've just suddenly spent like 50 quid or dollars or whatever, it's going to hurt a lot more if it turns out that you're not going to appreciate playing it for long periods of time. So just at minimum 1, 2, 3 sessions, if you're playing for free, great, because that way then you can save money. And if you've got a friend who actually has all of the source materials and all of the resources that you need, even better. Don't have to spend a penny. Tip number 2, atmosphere. In your games, when you're just starting out, atmosphere means actually a huge amount and will really help amplify your storytelling. Like, it's insane how much just a little bit of atmosphere can really bring your stories to life. So what I always do in my own campaigns is I always end up having a speaker. I always have a speaker and I always have a playlist of some sort of atmospheric music that I like to have on in the background while I'm delivering scenes. If we're in a tavern, I'm playing tavern music. If we're in the dungeons, we're playing harsh, dark undertones, normally found things like tombs and everything. Sewers work great, nature also works amazing. Just delivering some of that atmosphere really helps for delivering really powerful, impactful moments. And sometimes you can, instead of having atmosphere, it can be music. If you're doing like large-scale traveling or stuff like that, music works really, really nicely. If you're wanting to end up sort of making the environment tell a bit of storytelling, music can really deliver a large amount of impact to your players and really change how they view the situation. And you don't even have to end up using a speaker. You can just use your phone, whatever is at your disposal. I do recommend it, but don't bring out a guitar. Tip number 3. So, tip number 3 probably will be important. Grab a set of dice, just one, just one set of dice. That's all you need at the start. That's it. I see the jokes. I'm aware of them. The internet is aware of them. Everyone ends up having a dice addiction problem. I am included. I will be the first to admit that. But when you're just starting out, you only need one set of dice, and that is the grand total of 7 dice total, which is obviously your D4, your D6, your D8, your D10, your D12, your D20, and a secondary D10. The D10 is for actually a D100 roll, but don't worry about percentiles right now. Someone will probably explain to you at some point. But you can just buy this set pretty much anywhere for relatively cheap. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be metal. It doesn't have to end up having all the glossy stuff. It's just to fit a purpose at this moment in time. If it fits the character that you want to end up playing and it doesn't cost you too much, great. If not, well, at the end of the day, it is your money. If you want them, go ahead. But this is more just realistic advice for people just starting out, so that way then you don't have to break the bank to end up getting playing. Also, quick utilities that you will need for the game: pencil, rubber. Don't recommend pen. Do not. Avoid it. You're going to be doing so much rubbing out that you are going to regret writing any information in pen. It hurts. It hurts. If you've got a friend who isn't being insistent about them, have them write down their character sheet in pen and watch what happens when they realize they've made a mistake. Yeah. Tip number 4, character creation. It's a long process. Be aware. It's a whole thing. It takes time. You will be hurting afterwards. It is intimidating. But important thing, when you are just starting out, the very first time you end up creating your character with a character sheet, going through the books, going through all of your source material and everything, is the biggest headache. It just is. Because you've got a lot of information that you're going to be learning, you've got a lot of information that you're going to need to be writing down, and it just takes time. And if you and your friends have never ended up playing the system before, yeah, it's going to take a fair amount of time. But if you follow rules of the internet, try and find people who've already done it before and who can help guide you through it. Find internet pages that can end up helping explain everything, or the source material will end up explaining everything and hopefully end up speeding things up. Each system is different in what is the fastest way to set things up. So I'm not going to end up talking about that specifically on this video and everything. But there are people out there who will end up giving you advice on what is the fastest, quickest, most efficient way to end up completing the whole process. As an example, in Dungeons & Dragons, I would consider, if you had a group of 4 players and 1 Dungeon Master, and all 4 of them needed to end up getting their character sheets done, and they had never played before, honestly, I would expect for a good speed to take around about 2 hours. Yeah, it is not fast. It takes time. Depending on how many people have played before, the quicker it will go, but just accept that. And that is why in Dungeons & Dragons we have the term Session 0. A Session 0 is essentially the very, very start of the entire thing. You're not even playing officially yet. This is when you're creating your characters. This is when your Dungeon Master or Games Master will be ending up explaining what the motifs, the story of the world will be. As an example, I would introduce myself as the DM. I would end up saying that we are going to be running through a gothic horror world that is dark, imposing, dangerous. Your characters will be going through deadly fights, hardship, and trials. If there is anything that you as players actually have a phobia of discussing, situations like, I don't know, parasites and the like crawling under skin, that's a concept that in gothic horror could come up. And so it is very important as a player for you to explain to your DM that is something that you do not want in your game. Because that way then, as the games master, being informed of that, I can then end up adjusting the story and making sure that concept doesn't end up coming up in the gameplay. Very simple, but very important. There's also just simple things like standard rules for TTRPGs. Things like the fade to black, aka moments of romance in your campaign, because no one wants to be sat at your table while 2 players are having their OC's kiss. Like, yeah, a peck on the cheek, that's fine. That's kind of cute, kind of sweet. No one wants to end up having you describe it going further than that. No one, okay? If you and the other player want to have that conversation, you can go to the other room and let everyone else roll the dice, okay? There is a system out there for all of it. I'm not telling you the name, I'm not giving you information out there, but it is out there for your really, really weird people. Do not play that game in public, okay? Save it for your own room, and I'm not talking about that system. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't look it up. I'm not kidding. You don't want to know. And I repeat, you don't set it up. Honestly, for your own good. Only other final thing which I'd probably end up saying for when you're just starting out with TTRPG. Actually, two things. First of all, expect the unexpected. Not kidding. When you're a first-time games master for any TTRPG, your players are going to end up throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. You are going to have to be prepared to react relatively quickly. Always follow the yes and rule, if possible, being the case that you end up encouraging your players to try crazy, wacky, silly things, so that way then they can have fun with it, that way they can grow, but also have a level of limit to it. Yes, they can do pretty much whatever they want, but that does not mean that it is always going to succeed. Make sense? Like, they can ask a king if they can have their kingdom, and with a natural 20 persuasion roll, that's a perfectly valid question they can ask. And with a 20, it means that the king doesn't behead them for asking the question. That's kind of the thing. Yes, they can have creative freedom. Yes, they can end up having a lot of fun with it. That's fine. But if you yes and too much, you get off track. You fall completely off any form of track for your campaign. And some people like that. Some tables love that. That's perfectly fine. But it probably isn't the 100% norm of a TTRPG. There needs to be some rules set in place, and you as the games master need to be willing to occasionally put your foot down and say, yes, the book says you can end up doing this, but I as the games master say you can't, and here is my reasoning as to why. Because you are the games master. Yes, they're going to be rules lawyers who want to end up saying, oh, well, the book does say that, and you are the games master. At the end of the day, regardless of what the book says, you have final authority of your table. Just don't let it go to your head, okay? So this leads into my final tip. To have fun. You and your players, everyone at the table is there to have fun. Remember that rule, because it is such an important and essential rule in TTRPGs. You kind of have a sort of unwritten contract as the games master that you're going to try your best to make sure everyone at your table has a fun time, and your players have the unwritten contract of kind of they're going to try to deliver a good time playing for the Dungeon Master Games Master as well. Almost my number one rule out of them all, but I save it for last because it's just that important. It's a game. That, like, no matter what anyone says, no matter how big it gets, no matter how important the stakes feel, at the end of the day, it is a game. Yes, it can hurt. Yes, you can become super invested. Yes, you end up craving for the next time you and your friends end up getting to play together, but it's still just a game. So, yes, it's good to get wrapped up in the emotions, the moment, having fun, loving everything about it, but you're still coming together to roll dice and play an imaginary game in our heads. I'm not saying that's a waste of time. If anything, it's quite possibly one of the most important things that humanity can do. That's a whole nother video subject for a whole different other day, because, yeah, people have been doing TTRPGs for a lot longer than we've ended up having pencil and paper, but video for another day. So, those are my 5, 6, I don't know how many tips on when you are a Dungeon Master, Games Master, just starting out in your TTRPGs. If you ended up liking this video, please end up giving this thing a like. Please end up sharing with your friends if you're just getting into the hobby. And if you want, please do subscribe to the channel, because I'm trying to end up growing it and everything. And just, if you want more information like this, then this is the best place to end up getting it. Either way, I hope you ended up liking this thing. Please write down your tips, advice, anything that you would give to a games master just starting out if you're a more experienced player. And in the meantime, my friends, I hope you have a good one. I'll see you all again soon. In the meantime, bye-bye.